This week on the Melanated Midlife podcast.
In order to change your financial situation, either you bring in more money or you reduce expenses or some combination thereof.
That is very basic that I think anybody can grasp that I either need to make more or spend less.
Or some combination. But sometimes it takes something extra to get us to where we're to be. I like to say that, and I was to say we're like palm trees. Yeah, that's the good thing. You want to be able to sway and flex. The wind blows those palm trees. They just lean the direction of the wind going, and then it may right back up a little bit or not, but it's the sway. It's the bit. So, irie. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Melanated Midlife podcast. I am Dr. Keela Willery, and I am not the star of this episode. The star is sitting next to me. So I am being joined by the expert, the inspiring person that is going to get you to whatever thing it is that you're trying to get to. So Charlotte Stallings is here with me, and she is entrepreneur, speaker, author, coach, all of those things. But she's also a former corporate diva, and there's a lot of her story that connects back to that. So I know a lot of you that are watching this are in a space where you're in a transition, you've got all these career ideas, and hopefully we can come to some of that in the conversation. But there's so much that I selfishly want to learn as well. So anything that is of really big news, all the contact information for Charlotte and the services that she provides, it will be in the show notes. So you can dig a little bit deeper with her one-on-one and get some of that magic after this is over with. But before I say anything else, thank you for being here.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. I know it's like I got some info a long time ago and it just took a minute, so I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
And it is going to be a good conversation. So she is coming in fresh and fabulous after traveling just a few hours ago. So everybody understand that this is truly a miracle in the making. And I appreciate all of the effort that it took to get here.
To be here. I really am delighted to be talking to you. Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to stop talking because I want everybody to understand who you are, your background, and why you being here to talk about your signature content to really appreciate that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Ooh, so me, who I am, we were just talking about this, but I'm a native Minnesotan, even though I lived here in Houston for a very long time. I remember moving here and meeting people, and they'd say, I'm from so and so place. They go, where? And they tell them, and they go, how long you been here? And they'd say 30 years. It's like, you shouldn't say you're from somewhere else anymore because you've been here a long time. But I get it. I still associate with home. So from Minnesota, but I've been here since late 94. Oldest of 5 kids. And I say that's a part of my story. The fact that raised in a single parent home and it's not a whining, oh, feel bad for me. It just is a part of my story because there's the corporate side, the, vice president of investment strategies at American Express, corporate spokesperson for the firm, rolling out this big national initiative to help women be better at investing and just having awareness and knowledge and training our financial advisors. And there's that story, and I'm so thankful for that. But there's this other side that, got me there because I knew nothing about all of those things, and I didn't know anything about corporate and being the oldest, being the first kid, but not having any role models, any people who could guide me, who could mentor me, those are even words I knew about, right? I'm so thankful for all of the journey. So married, we have a daughter, Milan. She's 26, soon to be 27, and definitely I like to say our miracle kid because it took a long time to conceive, and that she's here. That's a whole nother story that maybe you've had that topic or will down the road, just the journey to have children and what that can look like. Yeah. So in vitro babies. So that's an whole other conversation. But yeah, that's me. And so I'd still be at American Express. Likely, I tell people I really would have had they not had a layoff. And I learned the day I was traveling, I was sick. It was bad weather. And my boss kept blowing me up and saying, you got to get on the phone. I was in an airport, get somewhere where we can talk. I need to talk to you. I was like, what is going on? And so I find some corner, and she goes, I have so-and-so from HR here. And I thought, what on earth? And she goes, I want to blindside you. She said, Monday, the spinoff is going to be announced. And so we're spinning off a division. And your job and about 400 or 500 other people, your jobs are going to be jettisoned away. And I didn't want you blindsided. So here's where we are. You've got 30 days. You can look over the job board, pick something. If not, we're going to have to part ways. And Akila, I started tearing up because I really had cut my teeth. I like to say on sales and marketing and leadership and all kinds of things while at American Express. And I'd been there 20 years, so this was like a breakup. I was not initiating, and I was all, wait a minute, what you talking about?
Right.
Then the HR person spoke up and told me how much severance I had, and I said, wait, now. Now you said, what? How long? I started getting the tissue to dry in my eyes. I said, you said how long I could do nothing and still get paid? And she told me, and I said, well, send the papers. I'm gonna look over the papers, and I'm gonna look over the job board too to see if there's anything. And I really looked every day until that last day. And there was nothing because I was doing what I love, which is teaching and speaking and coaching and training people and helping them to develop and grow, whether it was clients of the firm or whether it was financial advisors. And so I didn't find anything. And that's when I left corporate. It wasn't my choice, but it's how things came to be. And so I decided after sitting and chilling with that severance for a minute that I would start my own business. And interestingly enough, American Express hired me back, what is now Ameriprise Financial. They hired me back to do a lot of the same work, training, teaching. And then that went on for several years. And it was, as I was thinking about it, it was at the beginning of the 2008, 2009 financial issue crisis thing that was going on. And I only think about it because I was speaking somewhere and somebody introduced me and they said how brave and bold she was because she started a business at the height of this whole crash. I had never connected the two. I had never thought like, yeah, I'm going to go out and do this while everything is crumbling. Never thought about it. That's when it all unfolded and I got started. And so they hired me back. I did a ton. And then I'll stop because you can tell I like to run my mouth.
You keep going.
You keep going. So there was a woman who had hired me and she said, so what else do you talk about? I said, what do you mean? What else do I talk about? Because we had been talking about money and investing and what to do during this rocky time. And she said, not that we all have it figured out, but I think, we're kind of at our full with the whole money talk. So what else? And I said, I still don't know what you mean. And she said, so you had to have learned something. You were this vice president of investment strategies at American Express. You were one of a handful of women, if any, and a woman of color. So what did you learn? And that got me thinking. And so that's what really expanded my business and helped me to think about not just speaking topics, but how did I want to continue to serve and help people and clients? And so that's where I am today, Charlotte Stallings, running this business where I speak and teach and coach and train. I do a lot of executive coaching, a lot of leadership development training. And what I've learned, Akila, is one of my mentors and coaches said the marketplace will dictate to us where we can and should be at that time. Yes. We maybe try to force some stuff. I like this, good at this, I want to do this right now. Yes. Nobody's buying. But what are they buying? And so during the pandemic, thank the Lord for online training stuff. I have a full calendar of speaking and training, and everything went away. And one of the clients where I've been scheduled to do some training in person, she called up and she said, everybody's got on the calendar and we don't know what's going on. So would you be willing to do it online, do the training? I said, yes, of course. And I was very familiar with Zoom. Zoom was not big. Yes, everybody thought Zoom was brand new. Zoom had been around. And so we did the training and, needed to make some tweaks. That began this long trajectory of doing a ton of training. So that's what my life's like today. And I'm so thankful. I mean, I think back and I go, I have had open doors, a virtual, sign on my business doors since 08, 09. And so God has sustained. There's been favor. You can't quit at things is what so I'm all around the board here. Lots of reasons, but yeah.
I'm stuck at that moment where you said, you get the call, which by the way, exact same thing happened to me.
Okay.
And my story is insignificant, but same thing is that somebody, the message had gotten to an old friend that was calling and saying, hey, I heard you're independent now.
Mm.
And I was like, wait, I'm independent. And I connected the dots because I'm, doing some things on the side as well. And I was like, no, 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 no. I got laid off.
Yeah.
Let's
call it what it is.
Yeah. But the point I was going to make is that I'm thinking of the other version of Charlotte that may have fought to stay in that exact position. No, I'm going to find another job. I'm going to try to hold on to where I was. And had that happen, so many other doors would have still been waiting to be open.
And can I say this, that you make an excellent point, because by then we had our daughter and I traveled. Part of what my job required was, yes, gone. Like, so I was gone every week, every day. And our daughter was young, taking a long time to conceive. And so I was like, I'm really thankful she's here. But I was on the road all the time. And I remember she had like some little rash on her bottom, and I was literally gone every week. And I took it to the doctor. No, I hadn't. I called my mom and spoke. Like, girl, just put some more Vaseline on there, whatever we rub. And then it had persisted. And I take her to the nursery at church, and they go, we got her. And then finally, I take her to the doctor. The doctor said it was the kind of infection women get that we don't like, that one.
Oh.
And I did that. I was like, you're kidding me. And I burst into tears. So I'm at the pediatric. I'm at the doctor, and she's got me and Milan, because I'm like, I'm a terrible mom. I am out crisscrossing the country, making everybody else's life better. I've been enhancing their lives and giving them knowledge and insight and inspiration and encouragement. And I don't have the sense to know my child, it's more than just a diaper rash. And that made me go, you gotta sit down somewhere and figure it out. So all of this movement was great. It was, exciting. I was doing all this wonderful, fun stuff. But at what expense?
Yeah.
So, delighted to be able to start this business while I was still working it. So here's where I'm going, because I've lost my little thought for it. What does this have to do with anything? I had been saying, I need to stop this.
Yeah.
And I remember Ron say, Charlotte, you're never going to quit. It's too convenient. All you do is get on the plane and go speak. And the money's really good. You're not gonna stop that. And even though, all the time, and Milan was little, and he get to the daycare super early and get back, all that, I did keep pressing. And if there had not been a layoff, I would not have spread my wings and started my own business if there was not this spinoff. So that's the point I wanted to make. I had been talking about it for a couple of years, and even said to my boss, hey, can we pull back on the travel? And she said, you know what the deal was? And she said, we created this job for you. This job did not exist. So she kind of, hit me back. And we were like, oh, you need to be happy. You need to be thankful. You get paid very well to go and be on CNN, and to go be interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, and be on media tours. So zip that. She didn't say that, but that was the
message.
That was the message.
Yes.
So I had been saying a couple of years, I need to pull back. I need to do something else. And because it was convenient, because I was Kate Well, I pressed through the other stuff. So I would have never started anything unless they had that spinoff. So that's kind of, that's what I wanted to make it. It's so, nothing wrong or right, good or bad. But sometimes it takes something external to get us to where we're to be.
Yeah, to get you uncomfortable. Just like, turning the fire up a little bit on the hand.
Exactly.
Things start moving around, and I totally receive that message. And I want to go back to something else that you were talking about with, talking about finance and being a woman in that space. I imagine that there are a lot of moments which we could go down so many different rabbit holes. But the people that are watching this right now that are already intimidated because you're talking finance, and we, in my opinion, we don't talk openly enough about this, especially to the female audience. And you've now built a platform on this. So I mean, what are we needing to learn? Or what is it that we are stuck with that you wish some of us would just gracefully let go?
Oh, that's so good. So I'm highly energized about this whole money thing.
Talk about the money.
Because So, a little book I wrote a long time ago that still, I'm amazed people still buy it. I still get little royalty checks,
Which we will link in the show notes.
okay. And I appreciate it. It's not this book, but it's just like wrote it for that time. And I need to update it. But the title is where I'm going. It's called I Wish Someone Had Told Me Financial Lessons Learned the Hard Way. And it's a compilation of like lessons learned, mistakes made by me, and some things that I observed. And so this first thing is, Dr. Akila, exactly what you're saying, having a conversation about money. Like open, seriously, openly, and not making it a, okay, we're going to talk about money next week, but we don't talk about it in between. It's like it needs to be integrated every day. So that would be the first, most biggest important lesson I could say to anybody to change the trajectory of whatever our financial lives is. And this is not suggesting there's a problem, there's something wrong. It's just normalizing talking about money. That is the thing. Normalize talking about it.
Yeah.
And so how do we do that? And here's what would trip me up. So I'm the vice president of investment strategies. My job is to, it's primarily two things: go and be a spokesperson for the firm. So me and one other guy, he had one part of the country, had the other. And we'd roll out some new strategy or research results. And it's like, you want to get your message out there. So we do these media tours, all that. And I go and speak for financial advisors. They want to bring in more clients and things like that. And I was intimidated. I thought, everybody knows all this stuff. And they're going to have me come and speak. The little girl from the projects who really, you talk about imposter syndrome, they go find out we were on food stamps and welfare. We lived in the projects. And my mom's first car, she didn't get till I was 17. And I'm thinking I'm going to get busted out. Because this is a room full of doctors and lawyers and professional people. And it's like, ooh. So I'd be speaking, and what I learned is the very basic core things that I didn't know. Many of them didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because we're professionals and we're experts at what we do, but this money thing continues to elude us, and it follows us throughout our lives. And even if we got good approaches and strategies, like at the core, having an emergency fund or what I like to call an opportunity fund, ideally 3 to 6 months of committed expenses set aside. It used to be 3 months. I'd try to encourage people, if you can put aside 6 months worth of bill money, well, what does that do? It gives you a cushion in case you change your mind about what you're doing or you want to start something, or there's a great opportunity to go cruise, do something else, run to London, go see about your family, do whatever. You've got it versus needing to pull from somewhere. So at the very core, having those kinds of things in place. And I only learned them, like that's really basic personal finance stuff. You didn't learn that growing up.
No.
My mom said, nobody told me. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I wish someone had told me right stuff. So I'd be speaking at these things and thinking everybody knows about systematic investing, dollar cost averaging, asset allocation, trader ratios, Sharpe ratios, because I had learned them. And these people who were professionals, who had advanced degrees, they'd come up and go, I get it now. Because my goal was make it simple so I could go home and share with my family. Yeah. And with my friends and the people in my neighborhood or at my church. And I thought, it's not just me and it's not just us. They don't talk about money either at home. So the first and foremost, biggest, most important thing anybody could do would just literally start having conversations about money. And so here's a little tip that I would pass along to, I go to Long Island and Greenwich Village, very affluent parts of the country. Advisors would have me in to speak. And we do a lot of women in investing workshops or seminars, I'll call them. And so I'll never forget, I was in a very affluent area, Long Island, New York, and speaking to these women who, they could come out at lunchtime because they didn't have to work. That's true. I'm working. They had to. And this lady cornered me after the session, and she had tears running down her face. And I was like, "You in my personal space, what you doing?" She said, "I can't let my friends see me crying." She said, "I know nothing about our financial lives. My husband takes care of everything." And she goes, "Today you helped me understand some things that I don't know anything." So, and she goes, "You gave me a strategy so I can get immersed because I don't know, and I don't know where to start to kind of just to learn." And I had said something as simple as, look at the bills that come in. We're just if the insurance bill comes, just hey, let's talk about this today.
That's easy.
That's easy.
Okay.
Or next week that bill, whatever comes in over the course of the month, just talk about it. Hey, I noticed this bill is here. Oh, I noticed we got a statement from Fidelity or from wherever your brokerage place is or the bank. Just and now we do so much automatic or digitally, so we don't get paper statements and things, but look at the bank account, look at where those accounts are that you have and saying, let's just talk about them.
Yeah.
And not just with your partner or spouse, with the children and everybody. So what does this mean? What does this look like? What are we doing with this? We've got this many accounts. Let me explain them. So mom, dad can explain them. Let's talk to the kids. Normalize having conversations and just start with the everyday expenses that we have. Let's talk about the light bill. Oh, do we do TXU? Do we do this? Do we do Ambit? So what does that mean? And they go high, low, have the conversations, and they don't have to be deep and heavy. So starting there, I'm a hush because
No, because
I looked up, Keela.
no, because I'm thinking about I'm visualizing you out learning these things in real time and having conversations with folks that have paid you to be there. But then I'm also thinking about the message in the conversations at home that you're having with your daughter, who is now very much, young independent adult, and at least with specifically that generation, the 20 somethings right now, it's disturbing for me that some of them are seeking for someone to take care of them. And I'm like, I thought we spent the last couple generations going in the other direction. But that is creeping back in for young women now. Are you seeing this as well?
I am. I was just having a conversation with I call them the youngins.
Yeah.
Remember Oprah did that thing some years ago? She had the legends and the youngins there. So
That's right. Yes. It was like a tea or something.
Yes, exactly. That was it. So I'm gonna say not the old heads, but youngins. But I was having some conversations, and I was like, because they were expressing that. I was looking for not a sugar daddy, not that, but just like somebody gonna figure this out and handle this and whatnot. And I was like, wow, that's really deep. Now I want to say this as well, because yes, while our daughter Milan around this whole corporate kind of space and energy and hearing me and going to the TV stations and doing all of this, um, and so I'm saying this to any parent, anybody, woman, anybody who's watching this. There's an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So even though we're dropping nuggets, we're teaching, and some kids really get it and they grasp it and they grow with it, and that's their thing. And others are like, it's okay. They're getting what they need when they need it, and when they're ready to receive it and apply it, they will. So I say that because our daughter, there have been times, it's like, okay, Milan, here's how you do this. Here's bank account, blah 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 blah, and she was like, okay, mom, I'm listening. She was younger, but she wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
So now, since she's been out of college, she's working. Things are different. So we have different conversations. Okay, what about a retirement account? What should that be looking like? Her budget, like things that worked for me for budgeting. She's like, I need to do it differently. But when she was ready to start talking about budgeting, because it was real, she had real money for her in her hands versus when she's working her part-time jobs and school and things. So I don't want any parents to go, oh, I got to really reel it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's great. I applaud that. And I think that's where I felt we were doing too. But then there were times where I was like, oh, I messed up. I didn't do everything right. And here I am in this space. I've given myself grace. And what I've seen is, again, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Not just with our kids and money, but I felt that is anything, all things.
Yeah. And going back to 2007, 2008, when we were, I'll say, that was the last big headlining financial crisis that this nation went through. And at the time of us recording this is June 2025. And we've been hearing all of the stories, the talking heads on the news telling us we are in another financial crisis. And I can say from personal experience, yeah, I went through that layoff. I have seen the job market just kind of turn on its ear. Has the advice that you were giving in 2007, 2008 to individual families, has it changed since then, or is it still pretty steady with the same advice?
That's such a good question, because I say often, there's nothing new under the sun. It's like the Bible. And it's like there's strategies, and we tweak things. It's like fashion, high heel, pointy, now flats,
Yeah.
kitten heels, skinny jeans.
They just rotate.
They just rotate. You keep all your stuff because it's just different, a different wash in the dim. And so the same thing with investing and kind of personal finance stuff. Dave Ramsey has been around forever. Yeah, he talks about envelopes. That's not in deal. Like that was something we learned, and I had never heard of the book years and years ago after we first got married. This was a long time ago. But he had been preaching and talking about that for a long time. And so people have variations on it. We'll see on TikTok, some woman like made tons of money doing this little folder and it's got plastic sleeves. It's a different version of envelopes.
Same thing.
So it's kind of the same thing. And here's what at the core the messaging doesn't change. In order to change your financial situation, either you bring in more money or you reduce expenses or some combination thereof.
That is very basic that I think anybody can grasp that I either need to make more or spend less.
Or some combination.
Yeah.
I can make more and I can spend less at the same time to accelerate things. But if I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and I expect a different outcome, not going to be the case. However, if I reduce expenses and I never make another dime, I'm going to do better off. Or if I can make more money and I still keep expenses at that level, I can make progress. But it's some combination. And that at the core is what does not change.
Yeah.
So from 08, 09 to now, that's still the stuff that I'm saying. And they're different, there's crypto and there's Bitcoin and all those. There's always been new and different types of financial instruments. But what I say to that is, that's how come you still have to start with a spending plan, budgeting. I say budgeting is not a cuss word. Because call it a spending plan. You call it whatever you want. Yeah. But how are you going to get from this point to the other?
We will say spending plan is the sexy version.
Sexy version, yeah.
It's still budgeting.
It's still budgeting at the core. And there's so many different ways to budget. And so I'm not even here to say you got to do it this way or that way. Used to be the whole thing couples, you got to have this and that. You got one joint account and then you do what works for you.
I'm glad you just said that. I hear so many different parts of that vilified where it's like, no, you got to have your own money, which yet you are your own person. Don't, I won't go there about you are less of a woman just because you got money going into the same account. I feel like if both of you are aligned with what you're doing with that money, that's what matters.
I couldn't agree with, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. That's the key. My mom, some advice she gave me. She said, you got to do what works in your house, Charlotte.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. We finna divert.
Okay, divert.
Because thank you for saying that, because I've said that so many times about what you do in your house is not my business.
It's so not.
So if the priority is putting everything in this corner and a little bit over there, okay. Do you, boo? And
yeah, because we're together on that.
Yes.
That's the power of it.
You and your partner.
You got to be you and your family. And I say to people, and I kind of say it jokingly, but if in your home, your household is you and your fur baby, your little fur baby, hey puppy, that's what we do today. Yes, there is alignment and unity. So and then you know what? I say assess. Like lean in hard, like for 1 quarter, or even start with a month. You know what? We're going to go hard. And go hard doesn't mean we're exerting so much more energy. It could look like we're just going to be consistent. We're going to keep talking about this. We're going to work our plan. We're going to revisit. And then let's sit down after 30 days and just go, how did this go? How did this work? What do we need to tweak? Should we keep going or not? Do we need another tool?
Yeah.
But you can't really assess unless you put a little effort behind it.
Yeah.
And then if you're like, that worked, well, let's check back in 2 months. Let's check back in 3 months.
Right.
It's kind of like a trial period at work, like, whatever they call it. I've forgotten these days, like a...
that the onboarding time.
Onboarding, that we're going to check you out for this period of time. And,
and
then we see how it's gone. So do that. And if there, again, key messages, make discussions about money, normal stuff, not when something's bad or we owe a lot or something about to get cut off or we're later behind. I have a really good friend who just is discovering some tough financial pains that have been happening. Spouse was supposed to be taking care of some stuff and had not been, and it's like tough. And talking about everything else. We're going to vacation, what we're going to have to do, what we're doing for the weekend, but this money stuff, conversations don't come up until we're in a what or a jam or close, and then gotta pull out all the stops to fix stuff, and that is stressful. That is anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
So normalize talking about it, and then just what works for us, and don't try to do everything. That's another thing, Akila.
Gotcha.
Don't. We're not trying to do 50, 11 things.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get one or two core things that we're going to work on,
And that's it's all a season, and I'm glad you talked about going 1 month at a time and stopping to reflect, because so there's so many conversations where it's like your team Dave Ramsey or your team this or your team that, and I'm just going to stick with that recipe and that's it. I'm like, you got to see if it's working at some point.
Absolutely.
And this other thing that I a thought that just came to my mind. Had a conversation, another girlfriend of mine, and she was actually a guest here on the podcast. And as a matter of fact, let me tell everybody, go back and take a look at the episode about aging parents.
Oh,
Yeah. So you talking about having these conversations with your daughter, and whether it's organic in the household or if you're really teaching her a lesson. I'm wondering on the opposite end of that spectrum, when you're talking about finances, when is it appropriate to have that conversation with an aging parent about their finances? Because if we live long enough, you will be taking care of that. When should that start kind of making its way into the conversation?
I wish I could say there's some easy, exact, specific thing. Sooner rather than later is the best answer I can give, because it's hard, especially if in your family. Again, we did talk a lot about things, especially certain generation. Don't tell. We don't talk about things,
And we know we talk about it because at my knee, I have less than what I look like I have.
see, you about in the Kool-Aid.
I'm trying to look like I got it all going on.
In your hand, but if I hit you on that, see, we've been not dancing around it, but that is at the core, especially for our culture.
Yes,
because I got to look like I'm balling. I got to,
mm-hmm.
and certainly we've heard this before with social media. All day, so the way where they live, they look what they dropped, and look what she got on. I want that. I get sad, or
Yes,
just. I'm not if I'm not presenting like that. And that whole thing, we that's back to the you got to do what works for you. In this okay. So having this conversation is not worrying about what everybody else does. This works for us. We work on our plan, and we're going to adjust. We're going to pivot if needed. So back to what you were saying, the whole thing about money together, money separate for couples. It's okay. We evolve and we grow and and then I used to be very staunch. God put it together and you got to do this. You know what? If what works for you is here's what the bills are. Now I'm big on percentages. So if our household income, our whole, we bring in 300,000, you got 200,000, I got 100. That could be a way to align it. I'm bringing in that. Then maybe it's you pay 2/3 of things, I pay 1/3 of them. But that doesn't even. It's just an option. Yeah, whatever works for your family. That's the key.
Okay, and I truly, y'all, I swear, I want to talk about some other stuff. The other question that I got for you about dollars and cents. When you talk about percentages, so as someone that has experienced a layoff, I truly can agree, co-sign, double stamp the 6-month outlook, because that is how long it took while I was out there dancing in these streets trying to figure out the next opportunity. So I was thinking 6 months, no, 3 months. I was like, worst case scenario, it's going to take me 90 days. 90 days came and went and said, bye, girl. And it kept going and kept going. Now, granted, this is a very interesting market right now. But all that being said, I'm thinking what percentage needs to just poof automatically go into that rainy day account that you would advise? What is the bare minimum we need to be just putting away every month?
So again, it goes back to a question you brought forward before. Has messaging changed? And it has not. This idea of a rainy day or opportunity fund. And it's not a percentage. It's getting, so what does it take to run your household for 1 month? So when I say expenses, if that's $5,000 in 6 months, so we're talking $30,000.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, and we say that, don't say, here's my income, because the income goes away, but the bills not stop. So make that a goal. And what I say to people, because it's a big number, whatever.
Those bills are rude. They very rude. They just will not go away.
They're disrespectful.
Very much so.
Really disrespectful. Those bills are, because they coming.
Mhm.
They coming. And think about where there's been real hardship for sure. Tropical storms, hurricanes, fires in California, and the mortgage company think, well, we may pause something or we're going to put it on the back end, but you still owe for something you maybe don't even have, or that was totally devastated. So the goal is not a percentage; it is, what are those monthly bills? So for you to say, you know what, it took me it took 6 months, but if I know I've got set aside that much of what our bills are, we may not be able to go out and get to go eat all the extra meals that we were. There's steady cash flow. We're pulling back, but I know I can meet the core things. So at a minimum, 3 months of committed expenses, 6 months or beyond is ideal. And to anybody listening saying, are you nuts? I'm unable to do that. At a bare minimum, go figure out a way to get $1,200 put aside. Why do we say that? $100 a month, that's $1,200. And if you can hustle up on it, so cut back on some things. Nail. I'm letting the world know. I press on nail, girl. I I was like, that's a little extra I could do some things with. Yeah, the point of do whatever works legitimately. But could you sell some stuff? Could you get on Facebook Marketplace or do something, gather it up, cut back on something, but try to get at bare minimum $1,200 set aside, because say I got $100 per month and go, and that gets you started, and that makes you feel good. I have accomplished something. Yeah,
That is very digestible. 1,200. So okay, I'm all kinds of things that I'm thinking about because when people talk about just, I won't say people, women. I will call it out. I have a lot of gentlemen that are in our community that are listening to this, but the vast majority are women.
Right.
And I feel like your message about personal finance, it is going to bleed into that empowerment that I feel like we sometimes we dance around certain things instead of calling it out. But in addition to the personal finance, making sure that you are on top of your numbers, you have a message for people out there. And I want you to just lean elbow deep all the way into that right now.
Okay.
And these folks that are watching, they are in this season right now of wanting to do something different. Some of them tune in looking for those inspiring stories. Some of them want to hear, oh, she was just like me and she did it. But they're waiting for permission. They're waiting for that key thing that you're just going to say, hey, go and do it, girl.
Okay.
What is it that you wish more women in this season? I'm in my 50s, and everybody will give you her skincare routine. But Charlotte is just literally 5 minutes older than me.
I wish I was only 5 minutes older than you. I could have been a teen mom, probably, like a very preteen. Yeah, very preteen mom.
But what is it that you wish we would start hearing and listening or leaning into so we can get over ourselves?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, and there was a question you would ask me in the little kind of document, and it made me think. So some experiences that have been transformative in business and personally. I think the biggest is this notion of lingering. So there'd be two things. One is lingering too long in a space of, mistakes, or mistakes I've made or others have made, decisions I've made or others have made that have impacted me. I tend to be a lingerer. I can hang on to what didn't go well, what was hurtful, and the whys. And why, WHY, why. I've learned in certainly these last 5, 6 years that lingering, that staying there, that treading in place, thinking I'm making progress, but not, especially mentally, emotionally, that can delay us in our growth and in our development. And that would just be a really big thing. I talk about. I've kind of rebanded and branded my business in the bold direction. Being bold. Bold about what? Yeah, I want us to get out there to jump, to leap. Sometimes it looks like saying, I'm going to let go of needing a bunch of affirmation. And I'm talking to me and about me first and foremost. And I see this in clients, so I see it in business. It's the I need to go check in with some people. I'm gonna wring my hands. This is the visual depiction of it. Sure. I'm hesitant. I'm hesitating. I want to grow. I want to have a podcast. I want to get my doctorate degree. I want to go do something different with my housing and try something different. I don't know. Yeah. That might look like. So let me go talk to a bunch of people and ask them. And that's good. That's good to get wise, good counsel. Then when I do that, I may go do something else. But if I don't, Dr. Akila's going to say, well, I sat and I talked to you and I gave you all the good insight and you didn't do X, Y, Z. Am I going to disappoint that person? Are they going to be angry with me? And so we hesitate. So I think at the core, it's the hesitation and the lingering too long in those spaces of let me think, let me analyze, and it's the second guessing. And that's what it is. And so I am learning and I'm proud of myself. It's like based on the information I have in front of me at that time, trust that I can make the best decision possible and then go and make that decision. And I got to tell you something that was life changing for me. I listened to Mel Robbins. I love her. Scratchy voice, potty mouth a little bit, but I love her. She don't cuss a little, and it's okay. Yeah. She was interviewing Stephen Bartlett. Are you familiar with him?
Yes,
I was CEO, and I had not heard of him. And he was on, and he was talking about this 51% in decision making. Are you familiar with that?
I am not. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh, life changing for me. So especially to that hesitancy that I speak about, that I know I've held on to, and maybe it's come from all kinds of places. Being the oldest child, and decisions I make are going to affect other people. Maybe it's come from all of that. That he was talking about that, and an example he gave, he said he was consulting a business, and there was a father in the business, and then the son in the business, and the father. This overall conglomerate. The father was running one vertical, and the son was running another. He'd bring ideas to the father, and the father would go, no, we're going to think about it. Let me analyze it. Let me review. Let me, And then he'd go to the son with the same idea or NIV, and the son would go, okay, let's do it. Now, everything that the son would jump on wouldn't, produce or be successful, but the father was doing nothing with any of the ideas. So it's like, well, over time, some of the ideas brought to the son, they flopped, they wouldn't go, but the son overall progressed and did much better than the father. So the two businesses are, here's the father, no growth. Here's the son, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Do you see what's happening? He's excelling and getting up here with growing his vertical in the business. So what's the difference? The son is jumping, the son is taking a chance, the son is saying, let's give it a try. And so does that mean he's a risk taker? Maybe, but he was operating with this rule, 51%. And I think Stephen Bartlett talked about it from Steve Jobs. In decisioning, first you got to decide, what kind of decision is it? Is it one that can be reversed? Is it one that is life altering? So if there's a decision in front of you, if you say, however you lean into this, is it going to screw up your life, somebody else's life? There's a roof going to fall in. Can you reverse that decision? If the answer is no, that might be a bucket A type of decision. Could there be a bucket B type of decision? And I know I'm not getting it all the language correct, but at the core, can you change your mind? Can you reverse it maybe after a year, after 6 months, after 30 days? Yes. So if you can reverse it, that means you only need to know 51% of what you need. Because you know how we'll go, I need to be, or certainty.
Yeah.
51%.
I need a guarantee.
I need a guarantee. I need to be this much. I need to have this much certainty that things will be okay. And so where he got was this son who made stops, starts, but still excelled. He was applying that rule. And Stephen was suggesting for us, if we're uncertain or we struggle with that, just if you can get to the 51% certainty with with those bucket B things where you can change your mind, you
Yes.
can reverse it, then that's all you need. It's 51% comfort, certainty on those bucket B or those things where you can change or it's not going to be life altering. Now, the things that if you decide this, you cannot reverse it. It is going to alter your life. This is going, it's maybe, a decision to move from here to the other side of the world and you couldn't see your family for 5, 10, 15 years, what I don't know, whatever that is. If it's that kind of thing, then maybe you need more certainty. You need more than 50%. So you got to keep researching. You got to keep getting more insight so that you have a greater level of comfort in making that decision because it's irreversible. But those ones that you can switch up, like don't spend more energy. And all I say that because it was so liberating.
Yes.
It was so because I can hesitate. And I meet people and I coach people who wring their hands and they're not shut. And then there are people who leap. They jump. They do it all the time, like the sun. Okay, we'll say yes. Okay. All the time it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. So, in response to your question, like the story, part of my story is I've been a hesitator for a lot of reasons. And a friend of mine said, "You're a hungry hesitator, Charlotte." You want more, so you keep pressing, but it's not without me kind of wringing those hands. And I could run to people. Oh, what do you think? Let me ask your opinion. There's a point at which we need to action on some things.
You're saying that I'm absorbing this, so I mean, I hope the camera is not getting all my ugly expressions that I'm making because it is like you know how you like chip into a big block of ice, and I can visually see some things unlocking in my own consciousness because I have been. You're the hesitator. I have been the type A follow the rules kind of girl. And I openly admit that it is a personality trait that I'm trying to unlearn because my dopamine hit came from, hey, job role done, pat on the back. You followed all the rules. You checked every box. So good girl. And after half a century of being that person, I'm realizing, there's a whole lot of scenery along this journey that I just did not take a look at because I was so busy following the path that's already laid out. And so when you say the people that are having these options, bucket A or bucket B, that unlocked a whole lot in my mind. I mean, so I hope that other folks that are that, you know, I call it good girl rule follower, they're hearing this and saying, hey, you got to get out there and try a few other things. It's going to make it a lot spicier along the way. But I'm so glad you told that story because now I need to go back and find
Do
that episode.
We'll go Charlotte let the whole section out, but at the core, it's how much certainty do we need in order to, and for me, because I have when I really sit down and the phrase people say a lot when I'm honest about it. I mean, try to be honest all the time, but really sitting and looking and therapy has helped me do that. And it's not just unwind. Where does it come from? So what you going to do with it now? That for me has been the thing. Okay, maybe it stems from here. Everything stems from somewhere, and I can harm on that. So what now, Charlotte?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's still a thing. I have to, but there are things in my life where it's like, jump, do it.
Yeah.
Run a business. Okay, I didn't need 51% finished. Just we gonna jump in and run a business. Why not create a business, say run a business, and look up. Oh, we are still in business. Thank the Lord. There's viability, sustainability, and yet other things where I will twiddle them thumbs. And I see that in others, and it's like, we can do this thing. We can go forward. And then I think the other piece of that is trusting yourselves, trusting that we're going to make those right decisions, trusting that if it doesn't work for them, we can change our mind. Yeah, and that's the thing about change. We can change.
I think I say the power of the pivot.
Power of the pivot. I like to say that, and I was to say we're like palm trees. Yeah, that's the good thing. You want to be able to sway and flex. The wind blows those palm trees. They just lean the direction of the wind going, and then it may right back up a little bit or not. But it's the sway. It's the pivot. So I agree. Yeah.
I want everybody to know, anybody that has followed this podcast, my YouTube channel, they have seen this iPad case over and over again because I always have to keep notes and I'm always forgetting what I want to say. And after we stop recording, I'm like, I should have asked Charlotte this, or I forgot that. And that's the reason that I keep it. I have not opened this thing the whole time that we've been talking. I've got literally about 25 questions that are listed here. So I will tell everybody, forgive me. You heard a whole lot more than I could have been able to prompt you with. But I do want to just let you round out this whole conversation with what is the guiding message that you want more of us midlifers to receive, whether it's from your own experience, what you're seeing some of us get stuck with. What is that closing message that you want us all to know?
Mm-hmm. For me, midlife probably happened a few years ago because I'm so much older. I feel it's just a number, but it is just a number. It sounds so old, so I don't say it. But I had a big old party last year to celebrate getting into this space. I think the idea of, and we hear it, but I really am embracing it for myself. Um, there are more years behind me than I have likely ahead of me. And that's not a bad thing. So I want to make them count for real. And so doing things that I want to do, really pursuing the dreams, the goals. Like I'm not too old to do that. I'm not too old to do the stuff that brings me joy and that I really want to do. So that would be the biggest thing. Like don't stop pursuing. It's ours to be able to have and to take and being able to be flexible. That really is it. Not being so stuck on something, because I run into that a lot. Whether it is somebody at a business, this is the way I've always done it. And I need to do it this way. Yeah, here's a little example. I know somebody who they're very paper based, and that's not bad, but everything has a file folder, a manila file folder. Oh, got 50 file folders. Oh, no. And that's their comfort space. That's not bad or wrong, but they continually need places to put the file folders. And so I try to step back and learn and go, okay, that's them. They're comfortable. Do I need file folders? It's like, no, there's digital stuff. And then what if it in the technology, it's going to be okay. It really is. So in this midlife, like being okay, we are where we are. We need our desire and looks. That's fine. We need readers. We need to think, whatever it is, like being comfortable in that, being okay with it. Yeah. And pursuing the dreams. Like I'm not at the end of things. Like I'm not like midlife. I think I said this. Midlife doesn't have to mean end my life. Winding
Midlife.
It is. It's just the middle. It's a good space. And keep going forward. That's my thing. I'm going roller skating. I done skydiving. My daughter and I did that. I just came from New York, needed to do some work, but I caught 2 Broadway shows. I'm going back in a couple of months. I want to do this. I don't need permission. Yeah. There's a phrase that I have, and I should have wore my t-shirt, we can win without perfection or permission. Ooh. So it's about, going forward and doing our thing. Yeah. So I just encourage everybody, wherever you are, keep going forward. Pursue your dreams. It's not too late. If you're a bit like great, because we've learned a whole lot. So let's take those learnings, apply them, and then getting on the things. And nothing you're cool. Mm-hmm. Okay. I figure you out.
No. I am sad that we are closing this out because there's more that, I mean, not to say, I know. I'm such a millennial. I got to be real with it. I want to keep going. But
so we'll do another one.
We will do another one. Yeah, we will do another one. I will be linking all of your information in the show notes because I want everyone to understand, number one, the magnitude of the teachings, but then all of the things that I couldn't cover in this conversation. There's a whole lot more that you have to offer. And I will say this to anybody that is watching it. I mean, yes, we've joked about the age difference and everything, but the other part that I want to drive home is that as long as you understand that this journey is an evolution, that what all the things that you've done, all the things it's still making you who you are today. So exactly. I see where I'm sitting right now at 52, which I say my age proudly. And then I'm gonna say go ahead.
65.
65, girl. Girl, I'm gonna say we don't look it. We don't look
We
it.
don't look at.
We look good.
Teacher, we don't look at.
We don't
We
don't
don't
look it. This is all a beautiful time for you to embrace the journey, everything that has made you who you are. And like, yeah, that point I was making about sitting here at 52, I see myself at 65 sitting right over there, and I'm claiming it.
Yeah. Okay.
This lady is my witness. This is the prototype that I'm following. So everybody, I thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you did and you got something out of it, I really think you should share this with your girlfriends and have a conversation about money.
Absolutely.
Have a conversation about what's real for you in this season, and really, really just lean all the way into all of those things that you're holding on to. And if you're stuck, if you think you need some professional guidance, call up Charlotte. And she is that coach that is probably going to get you out of your own headspace. So thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Melanated Midlife podcast. If you have any comments or questions for Charlotte, I'm going to say put it in the comments, and we will monitor that so that you can give some free advice from someone who has walked and talked the talk.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being
You're
here.
so welcome. Thank you for having me.